You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, your host, Ben Eagle. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you are listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 296 of Meet the Farmers. I'm your host, Ben Eagle. Today on the show, we are heading to North Yorkshire to hear an update from a man who made a bold leap into farming just a few years ago. Damian Barson was working as a dog trainer, but in 2021, he decided to take the first steps into sheep farming, becoming a new entrant in his 50s. He started small with a few Rylands, but things escalated as they usually do in farming. He now manages a flock of around 150 ewes. He's currently mid-lambing, literally mid-lambing. He was out there a couple of hours ago. He's running mostly mules. There's a few Swaledales in there as well, and he's kept a mix of other breeds in the past. In 2023, he was a finalist at the British Farming Awards, as well as the sheep. He's kept boar goats and also had pigs, although I think they're in the freezer at the moment. He has had a difficult journey, let's say that, in life most recently, including caring for a friend of his and also tackling the personal isolation that a farming life can bring. And I'm really pleased that Damian is willing to sort of share his most recent journey with us. So that's what we're going to hear about today, some of these challenges and some of his personal story. Damian, that's enough from me. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Meet the Farmers.
No, Hannah, and yeah, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure and good to be able to sort of update the audience as such as to where I'm at, what I'm doing, and how things have dramatically changed since I've moved to the North Yorkshire Moors National Park. It's a totally different way of farming, I could say that.
Yeah, which we will get onto. But you've come over from Lancashire. You've crossed to the other side.
Burnley born and bred, and I'm now in Yorkshire. I'm almost becoming Yorkshire in the fact that I'm getting even tighter than I was.
I have to say, I was looking at your Instagram story earlier today, and you were talking about, was it heating up a sausage roll for like an extra 50p?
I'd been to the local market town. Now, my nearest market town is about an hour round trip for a pint of milk. So it's a place called Helmsley. It's lovely, but it's a touristy area. So they really capitalise on that. Let's just get as much money as we can. And there's a gentleman stood there and he just fancied a warm sausage roll, which to you and I in Greggs would have been £2 for £1.
Yeah.
But the price of them, I can't remember how much they were, but they were £1, let me put it that way. And the young girl said, I can warm it up for you, but it'll be a 50p surcharge. And honestly, I was like, 50p? I mean, just not going to cost you 50p for 30 seconds. But yeah, a point there I was making is that in the day of customer service and relationships and businesses, that we have now got into a world which we are, grappling with increasing costs, increasing food prices and production. And that was just something that stuck in me. I thought, oh, I would have walked out. I'm becoming that tight. I would have walked out.
So we're recording this on the 6th of May. This episode isn't coming out until June, but you are mid-lambing. How's it going?
Not too bad. I started, me and the dog, that's how we started lambing 2 weeks later than I've always done, because I've always gone with this sort of in with a bang, Guy Fawkes, 5th of November, out like a fool on the 1st of April. But the terrain, I lambed for the first time in 2024 over in here at this farm, and 23 back in Lancashire, we're hit with bad floods. 24, we were hit with severe weather, as we know in farming. But here, monsoon weathers, I probably lost 25% of my lambs to the weather. So I took a decision to push it back 2 weeks. We had a rocky start, pre-lambing, lost a few prior to lambing, which is inevitable with a lot of farming. So premature, or just bad mothering or whatever. but we slowly getting there. And in fact, I've just been looking at my software, my our livestock software that I work with, and 18 left to go. And it's a split. It's a 50-50 race now. I've got 9 pedigree Hebrideans
Okay.
and I've got 9 commercials to land. So at the minute, your chances anywhere. But I do know that my Hebrideans, they are going to drag out a little bit because I was told by my scanner there's one going to come out late, mid May, which I'm not happy about. But
Mm.
yeah, not too bad. We've got some good lambs on the ground. And this year I have changed the tuck that I've put with them. And to be honest, it was by chance. I've got
Okay.
a neighbour who we can touch base about afterwards, who's the only person really I know around here who's very nice and kind. At this time, I've not got myself another tup. So he had Cheviot tups, one which I will say we named Brutus because he was a brute. It took me out a few times. So we've got mule cross Cheviots and the lambs that are coming out, honestly, fantastic, kind of thing. And that's something this year's going to be a big change. I'm changing the whole flock because I've built up a mishmash of livestock throughout the time I started farming in September 21. So there's an eclectic mix of combination of different mules, swales, mule cross Beltex, swale cross Beltex, all this stuff,
Okay.
Ryland mule. So I'm now hopefully this year going to be focusing on one particular breed, still in the balance, but the Chivy at the moment, as a mountain sheep, as a hardy sheep, a low input sheep, they're coming out beautiful at the minute. Some big
Okay.
ones, which I have to say have been assisted, but yeah, not bad, thanks.
Yeah, well, Cheviot fans out there will be smiling at that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to have a quick chat about prices. Again, we're recording this in early May. Sheep prices have been pretty strong, but certainly recently it's been more difficult, hasn't it? And there's certainly been lots of people going to market and actually struggling with their prices. What's the story for you at the moment?
Yeah, it's a good point you made. I had a tough week last week. Because I am sort of changing the flock over, with any ewes that have either lost lambs or they've not had enough milk or whatever's happened. We are now processing those through the market. So I personally took some last Thursday, some coal sheet, which will just go into the food production side of the farming side of it. And I'll be honest, the price was terrible, £30 a head. I was talking to a good friend this morning who took some ewes with lambs at foot, and the prices they were getting were £20 less. I mean, £80 a head. And that's, I suppose, prior to me starting farming, people would have said that's a good price. That is a really, really good price. But we saw an increase. COVID increased. After that, there was prices increase with food
Yeah.
production, a need for more meat and everything else. So the price of lambs were doing very well and used, but it has taken a dramatic turn. And the auctioneer said to us last week, just overnight, from Wednesday to Thursday morning when I went into market, the price of the lamb prices dropped overnight. And that is something which I don't think people understand. In farming, we don't have a guaranteed wage. There isn't a guaranteed wage. I've worked so hard, and you can go to market and get £120 a lamb price, or you can go the next week and get 80.
Yeah.
But that's not reflected in your wage, kind of thing. So it's a gamble. Farming is a gamble. Whatever we say, it is a gamble. And that's why we as farmers have to do something else as well.
So on that, so let's have some context first of all, in terms of for any listeners who don't know you, and I'm sure there will be many out there who do and follow you on Instagram, follow your story. But who is Damien? Let's start at that. Give us some of your story.
Good question. So I'm nearly 53 this year. Started farming September 2021, just turning 50. First generation farmer. No experience of any farming, injecting, livestock, running a farm or anything like that. I've lived behind a farm for 20 odd years, and I am a professional dog behavioralist, gun dog trainer. I've done that for a long time. Amongst a lot of other things in life, marketing, sales, advertising, run my own companies, run companies for people. So there's been a mishmash, and that's where my websites, my social media, and my sort of PR side comes into effect from my
Yeah, of course.
background. But yeah, it was a chance. I used to rent some land, and it cost me thousands and thousands of pounds every year to just top it off, just cut it, mow it, top it. And I thought, I've got an idea. It cost me £1,000 to divide one of these fields, because I had about 15 acres in total I used to rent for different types of training. I split it into three, and I got some coloured rounds, they're fluffy. Clients will come with the children, they'll see the sheep, they'll think, I'll come back again. And that's how it started, just doing that. And then a good
Oh,
friend of
right.
mine had a
Okay.
farm, and she didn't farm it, somebody else did. I had a chat with her, got involved, and said, look, I'd like to invest in the farm, come into it. So I got sort of involved in that side of the farm, got my goats, got my pigs, got my sheep. And that was, like I say, September 21 is when I officially started that bigger journey.
That was in Lancashire.
That was in Lancashire, and near Lytham, a flat farm, about 30, 40 feet above sea level. Very easy to walk, totally different to what I'm used to now. Different climates, sea breeze, warmer, a
Yeah.
lot of grass growth, different to what I'm used to now. So if we quickly go through it, I was there with my friend. She got ill with a heart problem, and had a heart attack. I got back to life and things. And I carried on doing that, looking after her. But then I decided, why don't we move? So me and my friend decided to club together. We'd come over here. We found a farm. There wasn't any specifics. Didn't need to go into anywhere. I just drew a line above sort of Manchester and said, anything north, I'm happy. So moved here in November 23. And yeah, it's certainly been a journey since I moved here as well.
Yeah. So bring us up to date. Give us an insight into what's been going on for you in that past couple of years or so, because it has been quite a challenging path.
It has certainly been challenging. So the plan was to move over here, and the farm itself is a hill farm. We have grazing rights onto the moors for 200 sheep as well. It's not a big commercial farm. It's not got loads of buildings on it, but it has a cottage on site. So the plan was come here, renovate the cottage as a small one-bedroom cottage. It's two at the moment, but it needs jigging around to one. Design that so I can get a secondary revenue, because starting at the age of 50, you've no machinery, you've no tractors, you know nothing. So you need to generate an income. You can't expect to go into farming at that age and make a lot of money. It's a lifestyle, and it's a hard lifestyle. And then obviously, unfortunately, when I got here, my friend got ill with asthma and a few other things. And then was early 24, was diagnosed with incurable cancer. And then my sort of journey of farming was sort of halted a little bit. So I slowed down the increase of growing my sheep. I'd sold some sheep off farm because I was literally looking after my friend 24/7. On top of that, I've come over here to an area where I'm 3.5 hours away from friends, network. I don't have a big family anyway. But apart from that, the infrastructure and support network, there isn't one here. So not only was I moving to an area where I had to try and grow and meet people, and over here as well, it's a very insular area. It's very isolated and insular. So your neighbour is quite away, and they're all interconnected, if you know what I mean. And so to break that barrier to get in, very fortunate. I've made a good friend with my neighbour Stephen, and he's a great help for some contracting work. He'll come over and do contracting for me. If we've got any harrowing or topping or baling or whatever. But yeah, and so that my friend's illness, cancer, absorbed a lot of my time. So that itself was taking over the farming element, and sort of halted my development with the cottage as well. And then unfortunately, because, and again, I'll say this, the NHS over here, and they'll admit it, isn't great. And where we're positioned isn't great, because technically if we need an ambulance, we're an air ambulance, not an ambulance for an emergency. So I made the hard decision to move my friend back to Lancashire in November. So that's meant from the 1st of November, I've been up here through the winter, through the harsh conditions. I live alone, I farm alone.
Yeah.
I can be on farm for 2-3 weeks before I go off it. So it is a very hard way of life. And as you know, I'm an ambassador for Yellow Wellies in terms of mental health and working with them and promoting it as well. Because before farming, I'm going to be honest, I never knew mental health existed really. it wasn't something that ever affected me. I'd go training, I'd see 5 or 6 clients a day, I'd go nip to a local shop, I'd meet people, my friends. Now, you can finish work at 5 o'clock and, it's like, well, not see anybody. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, beautiful views. So yeah, so there's been a massive change in the way that my life has developed, my plans. We need to put a building up on the farm. Again, we've slowed down with that because there's been elements of things going on with life. So it is a different way of living. But sometimes you have to be grateful for what you've got. I can't not like beautiful views outside. Yes, it's harsh up here sometimes, but I'm still alive. I'm still out there. I'm able to get out there. I'm able to work. I'm a doer. But at the same time, I have got other side hustles on the side, which helps me to maintain the farm. Otherwise, you can't do it. I'll be honest. Farming isn't there at the moment making the money. There's a lot of factors, but yeah, it's been a tough journey.
Yeah. Wow, what a time. Let's break that up. I mean, the isolation in itself. How would you describe that isolation that you can have in farming sometimes? Because there'll be many listeners who are farming out there who will know this. I know this myself when I was on my family farm as well. It's sometimes you can be around people as well, but you can still feel isolated as well. So I think it comes in lots of different ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think every farmer will say to you, I mean, there's many generational farmers out there where they're very fortunate. They can get up in the morning, walk downstairs, the big kitchen, mum, dad, kids, aunties, uncles, whatever. And there's a lot of people about, and they can then afford time off the farm to go and do social media things, go to shows, talks, things like that. Because I get asked to go to things. And I'll be honest, sometimes it's like, well, can't because I can't go far.
Yep.
Or I can't do that talk, or I can't go to that show because of this. There's not just isolation in terms of the location you are. There's isolation as farmers that you have to stay on farm. You can have a farm set in the middle of a town, but you still have to be there for lambing. Today, for example, I walked around the farm. I had to nip off and get some fuel for the quad. Came back, a lamb had got stuck on the other side of a fence, running up and down, panicking. So on another farm. So you're in there to capture that. Now, if I was off for the day, there's a chance that could get missed. I come back, don't see it at night. It's then stuck behind the fence. It doesn't get any milk for 14 hours, 16 hours, and it dies. And that was something that happened the other day. I had a lamb that it was a cold night. We'd had a drop in temperature. Lamb had hid behind some rocks. And from the time I'd seen them at night to the time I'd seen them in the morning, that lamb had just starved. So isolation is hard for farmers. I think it affects them mentally and physically. We talk about just nipping to the pub and once a week and seeing somebody and having a chat, but pub for me is 20 odd minutes away. And then you've got to think about drink and driving. So you can't really these days. I mean, let's be honest, a pint these days is pretty much your limit, and that's even borderline with some of the strong stuff. So it is hard, and I know there's many farmers out there who'll agree with me that they'd love to get off sometimes, but they feel there's another job to do, and even like me today, I went off, but I'm racing to get back. So it's very tough, and I
Yeah.
can understand that there's a lot of people out there who can find it very difficult to navigate the balance of life, farming, and if you ask a farmer when's the last time they went on holiday, there's not a lot unless they have that support network. And that's where somebody like myself, I accept it. I've chose to go down this path, but it's still a drain. And there are days when sometimes I'll be honest with you, I don't sleep a lot. I'm a bad sleep. I can go 3 or 4 hours sleep at night. That's my max sometimes. But there's days where you wake up and think, said to somebody this morning when I had to ring up to get some dead sheep collected, I said, it's that hamster wheel again. I think farmers, we live in a hamster wheel. We're rotating that ball every day. We are out there. We do the same jobs. We get up, we feed, we check the lambs, we go around, we check the stock, fix fences, weeds, cutting grass, baling. And before we know it, we'll be planning for the next tupping season.
Mm. And at the same time, like you were saying earlier as well, you're working within a lottery system as well, in terms of prices, in terms of all that side of, and there's no control over that side.
Farming is a lottery. We can put as much time and effort into our ewes. And when we get our ewes up to a level and they're ready for market, all of a sudden we can have that bit where prices drop, feed's going up. I've seen a massive change in my feed bill this year because where I came from, I had a lot more grass on the ground. And this is the first year that I've had to feed a lot of haylage and hay to the ewes. Prior to that, no, you know. And also as well, we've not touched on this. I've got Highland cows as well on this farm, fluffy beasts. And that's something I'd always dreamt of having. And because I've got a hill moorside farm, and there's a lot of gorse, bracken, grasses, heather, you name it. And I got 4 of them last March or April, it was March time. And they have carved their way through it. They are such an amazing animal. And I've got them so that I can use them for the conservation. They put the muck in the ground, they wee on it, they fertilize it. But if you've seen on my Instagram the last few days where I've been walking some paths, which they've opened up some amazing stonework and gateways that have been hid by years of dead gorse and bracken. Beautiful.
Yeah, they are great beasts. My dad used to have 3 sort of pet highlands which sat out on the marshes down in Essex all year round.
Yeah.
They carved out there. They were just and such great characters as well.
The reason I got them is because I don't have a big shed, so I can't obviously have normal cows to bring in at winter. They stay out all year. They're hardy. They are friendly to a degree. They are amazing creatures. That's amazing. And they're something which, if we touch on mental health, which I think is a big thing in farming at the moment, for me to ride up or walk up the hills and just sit around and look at the views and the highlands are near me with my dog and looking at things, I think they're quite therapeutic as well.
Mm. One thing that I think your story over the last couple of years and everything you've been through is a great reminder of is that farmers are farmers, but farmers are also human beings, and human things happen to farmers. But the
Yes.
farming itself has to carry on. But you're then dealing on top with all of this other stuff, and then on top again of all the extra challenges, whether it's policy changes, whether it's economic changes that we've then seen recently as well.
I think you're right, yeah. Farming isn't just about getting up and looking after the animals. I mean, there's a lot of admin behind the scenes as well, just to, DEFRA rules and administration. There's a new system at the moment where livestock information system, which is a website, which is now the government and trying to centralize all the movement of cattle, pigs, sheep, goats, everything onto one. So you haven't got all the different sort of movement platforms. I obviously have to update my software. They're integrating that. So yeah, there's a lot of things behind the scene. And then on top of that, you've got navigating your family life, little things such as how to make money. Because,
A small thing like that.
we go back to the cottage. I've got a cottage on site. I want to renovate. That was held off because of the situation with my friend. I'm now back onto that planning process. But in order to do that, we're working on a new website because my family website wasn't changed when I moved over to here because of circumstances. I had a photo shoot 2 weeks ago for some stock photos because I have some articles published. And to be honest, the photos that I gave to somebody for Farmer's Garden a couple of weeks ago, it was one of those catfish dating photos, like 2 years ago. Even though there's not much change in hair growth, I thought to myself, I really need to get some new photos and things. So, yeah, there is a lot of dynamics, challenges. There's a Great Yorkshire Show's coming up. Just for me to attend the Great Yorkshire Show, that's a plan. I've got a plan to do that because when you live on your own, you get your dog, you got the livestock, you got things like that. So yeah, there's certainly a lot there to consider. And I think sometimes the public doesn't realise that it's not just driving past a farm with the white, fluffy lambs bouncing around. There's the bits this morning where I have to grab hold of some congealed first day old poo. That is that yellow, mushy stuff. If anybody's had kids out there, they'll know that projectile poo which is coming into nappies. It's that horrid yellow. I'm there this morning pulling it out because I asked the question today, why do you do that? Because if it sticks onto the bum, let's be polite, because on a podcast, I ain't that, no, and it blocks the passage, they'll get a build up of poo inside and they can die. And unfortunately, it has happened to me where you've missed a lamb with that congealed yellow stuff. Unfortunately, as well, this morning, I thought it was crusty, and when I grabbed it, it wasn't. So it was horrible. Out of everything I do, I can lamb seed, I can pick up dead stock, do stuff, but picking out that crusty, horrible first day yellow, orangey poo, oh no, that's not my
Yeah,
bag.
I was going to say that and the just the death smell. I think for me, that's the one that gets me. Just
So I
still.
can handle that.
Oh,
Yeah, I found, unfortunately, and this is another fact of hill farming, because a hill farm, I have lower grounds, which when I say lower grounds, are like 600, 700 feet above sea level. And then we have the higher bits, which I've got at the moment. I've got my Gimmer hogs on my Highlands. So they're not somewhere I go around high up all the time. But the other day I had to go up onto the hillside to check something, and tucked in a little crevice in the far corner was a Gimmer hog, which had accidentally got caught by a ram lamb last year. And she died giving birth because she was too small, everything
yeah,
else. And then you've got the logistics of how do I get that carcass down to dispose of it? Because again, we have to pay to dispose of that carcass. So by the time you've lost that animal, which again, at the end of the day, I love my livestock, but we're running a business. So we look at it as an asset. We then take away all the time and cost everything else. And that would have been in my next year's breeding program. And then the cost to remove. I'm paying effectively that sheep to be on my farm, kind of thing. So yeah, but and that was a logistical nightmare because I had to find a way of getting it off and find a way of getting my trailer and my quad up there, which again touches on, let's say, farm safety. Again, part of Yellow Well is farm safety, and I'm involved with that as well. And farming alone, we have very little mobile phone signal around here, and the internet, well, it is so bad that if I was to have an accident on the hillside, a bit like that, to give my hog, how nobody would know because it's very hard. So there's another factor to farming alone is the safety element of it. Whilst we're covering this area, there's a lot of farmers on their own. They've got machinery. I've been stuck many times over winter with my quad bike on two wheels on the side, not because I'm riding silly, but because I slipped on a hillside. And thankfully, my good friend Stephen has been available to come and help me. But there are chances when he's not there.
yeah. Because I was going to ask with that. So in that situation, you've got your neighbour, but do you have some sort of support system? And this goes for you, but it goes for so many people who farm by themselves. What advice would you give in terms of putting those sort of checks and balances in terms of farm safety by yourself?
It's a really, really open question, that, because if you think about it, there's no two scenarios the same. Now, for me, if I was back in Lancashire, I've got a lot of friends, a lot of people I know, a lot of networks there that I could have almost a ring around, say there's an emergency phone, I could ring or message somebody, and the phone signals are stronger. Over here, there isn't that community for me, and I don't have a friend network like that. So all I could probably say is, to your best of your ability, I communicate with my neighbour quite a bit. So on the basis that if I haven't spoken to him or he hasn't spoken to me for a day, then obviously alarm bells are going to ring. And that's all I can say. Just if you try and establish communication with somebody local, somebody you can talk to, work with them, and you know, just do your best. There isn't really a right and a wrong answer to that. If I'm honest with you, my safety support network here isn't great. I have to extra careful where I go, extra careful what I do. The way I ride up the quad up the hill, instead of riding up direct, I'll navigate almost like a slalom going up.
Yep.
so that I can choose. Because again, we've got underground spring waters here with underground holes, and in January time, I found one which I didn't know existed, and my quad dropped like a lead balloon into it. But again, thanks, a big shout out to Stephen next door. He came and we did a lot of jig report for it, and trust me, it was quite hair raising what we had to do to get it out, kind of thing, because everything on my farm is up or downhill. I do not have a flat field. You've just got to take, in my opinion, there's a lot of people out there who suffered at the hands of farm accidents. I try and just really, the best advice I can give people is stay safe, don't do stupid stuff. Think about, is it worth it? You know what I mean? And just if you are going to do something where you think it's precarious, then message somebody. I'm going up the side of the hills. I'm going to be on the moors trying to find some sheep. If I don't bring you back in an hour, then you know there's a problem.
From an outsider's perspective and point of view, it seems like you've been immensely resilient over the last couple of years through everything you've been through, but
Yeah.
you must have had some dark days as well.
Definitely, definitely. I'm not going to lie. I mean, there's days when I've sat there and I've yelled or I've gone mad or half a day and I'm just thinking I've had enough of this. Why the heck am I doing it? What possessed me to starting farming at 50? I had a very successful business where I was training around the world, uh, training dogs locally, virtually, and I still get a lot of inquiries now for people wanting me to get back into that. But yeah, there are dark days. I'm not going to lie. The other night I just had enough. I was in bed by 9. Now that's not me. Not whether I wanted to sleep. I just needed to just shut out the world.
Yeah.
And I think there's not enough. I've said this. There's not enough people talking about mental health, and farmers especially are in one of the highest categories of mental health in terms of how it is. And I don't want to focus too much on this, but it is something that there are dark days, and there are days when you think to yourself, okay, I shared a trailer with my friend, took some ewes to market last week. We got a bad price. But if I'd have been doing that myself, then I'll be honest, there was no point me going. It's like, why? So it's not easy. It's not easy,
Mm.
but you're quite right. I'm resilient. I overcome the challenges. I've always been a doer. I've always been somebody who said, right, okay, I'll learn how to, subcutaneous into muscular. I didn't know what those words meant when we were talking about injections. And even to this day, sometimes I'm there with some, antibiotics going, right, I'm going to say, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I'll Google it just to check I'm right still.
With that in mind, though, and again, you've been talking about your farming journey, and you said again your previous career, which I'd love to hear a little bit more about now. You were successful in, so would you turn the clock back at all?
Ooh. Ooh. Now, to have the money and earnings, yes. But no, I think life's a journey. I don't think there's any mistakes. That life is a journey. And my favourite say is every day is a school day. And I think if we look at where we are today, there's a reason why where we are today. And I think to say, would you turn the clock back? Would you go back to what you've done? I suppose it's like a relationship. I've always had this philosophy, never backpedal. Don't go back. Because once you've realised that that relationship's not right, move forward. I've learned that twice, 2 marriages.
Yeah.
Never again. Never again. I miss some of it. I miss the interaction. I miss the buzz. I miss what I had every day because I'm a people person. You're out there every day working with clients, training dogs. But at the same time, I chose this direction, chose where to go. And even though I've had a lot of obstacles on my journey and, I've overcome them, I've worked with them, still got a lot more to give. Turning 53, not a spring chicken, but I'm not falling to bits. I'm a hell of a lot stronger than I was when I first started. I couldn't lift a ewe, but now I can throw a ewe over my back and get off with it. But no, I don't think there's elements of it I do miss, but there's a lot that I don't miss, and it's a case of just getting forward, moving on. I think you can't dwell on it. The journey's there. it's happened, and to look forward, learn from your mistakes, and grow. That's the biggest thing. I think if you can learn from your mistakes, grow, have a mental attitude that every day is a school day, and don't be afraid of asking. One of the biggest things that's helped me is social media. Instagram, especially, I've met a lot of really good people on Instagram. I've established a lot of good friends, and it's helped me. And also, when I put things on there, try and use my Instagram because I live on my own and farm on my own as a platform to talk to people, talk to the world,
Yes.
communicate, open up. It might be boring sometimes. I might talk a lot of rubbish, but it's a way of talking. But there's some famous people who voice message me and stuff, and they'll talk to me and they'll say, I admire what I'm doing. And that's nice. And it shows that people take time to listen. And when I put stuff on there, I did something recent where I got two vets who sent me a message about it. And it was something where I drained an abscess, and they said, well, you got to be careful of this and da 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 da. And I said, I fully take on board that comment. I thought it could be that, which would require a vet intervention, but it wasn't that. It was where it was this and that. But I appreciated the fact that they weren't criticizing. They said, we know you're a first gen farmer. Just in case you'd not thought about this, have you thought about it? I went back, yep, I'd done that. I'd already asked the vet the question. But it's nice because, people interacting with you. So,
Hmm.
but no, I wouldn't change where I'm at the minute. Maybe a few things I'd like, a bit better price on lambs and ewes and everything, but
It'll
we
come
all
round.
would.
It'll come round. Yeah. I mean, that said, with your previous career, I can't ask a dog trainer on here onto a farming podcast without some dog training tips. Just give me a couple for listeners.
Well, the simplest things, if you don't want a dog to do it, don't show them how to do it. Classic example. You get people who will say to you, oh, they say, my dog, I need some help. My dog's jumping up at people. Okay. So, yeah, how old is it? Oh, it's 6 months upwards. It could be any age. Yeah, it's a nightmare. People come through the door and it jumps all over them. And I say, right, okay, so let's take you back when you had your puppy. And this cute little fluffy thing was bouncing around, and everybody that came through the door weren't coming to see you. They're coming to see the puppy. And the
Oh, of
first thing they
course.
did, they walked in. Oh my God, look at that cute little puppy. Come here. And the little puppy's scrambling around. It's like this. It's wanting to get up on them. And they go, oh my God, it's so cute. And then they pick it up and cuddle it on the shoulders. Oh my God, it's lovely. And put it down. And then 4 weeks later, they come up and it's bigger. And it's jumping, it's scratching at the legs and the tights and the trousers and everything
Yep,
else. And
of
they're
course.
putting it down and knocking it down. And I'd say to them, but you've taught it from day one. You've encouraged that. Or if you want another quick one, the funniest one I always say to people, I don't know, how do I stop my dog begging? Don't give it human food. From day one, don't give it human food. I don't give it human food. Yeah, you do. No, I don't. I said, okay, so you don't feed it any human food? No. So when you're preparing your Sunday dinner and you're chopping your carrots up, do you give it a carrot? Yeah, that's human food. And then they'll scratch their head and go, oh, no. I said, and that's why it jumps on the work surface because it associates the food on top of the work surface to the dog. And then the dog goes, hey, up, there's a chicken up there. Let's jump and get the chicken. So there's a lot,
Yeah,
but the
we've all
simplest thing
seen
with
it.
dog training is if you don't want a dog to do it, don't teach them.
Yeah.
Simple thing.
Have you done much training of farm dogs?
Uh, yeah, so obviously you'll know from a little bit of PR that I bought Sky, a
Of
very
course.
expensive sheepdog. I bought the world record for spending the most amount of money on an unbroken border collie at 9 week old. So I trained her up. I've done a little bit with some other people. The plan is not to go back to training the gun dogs and the domestic and the aggression work, 'cause I specialize in aggression work as well, but it's to focus on the sheepdog side of it. Again, something that this farm, with the terrain and land, is crying out to do. But without being negative, my friend's illness took precedence on that. So I haven't done that. This year, I am going to be getting another sheepdog because my girl's turned 4. And as we know, like ourselves, as we get older, we slow down a bit. So I have to be future proofing my sheepdog because I could not farm without her. But if I'm honest, going back to that training technique and tips, Training a sheepdog is no different than training any dog or any working gun dog, for example. Because a gun dog, you teach them to turn left and right if you're hunting them. You turn them to stop. You train them to stop, sorry, and you train them to recall. Fundamental things of a sheepdog: direction, lie down, which is a stop, and a recall. As long as you start off from day one training all the basics in a sheepdog, then you can get a good dog. And I can leave my dog 20 acres away, go and have lunch and come back and she's still there.
Hmm.
And people say to me, how? I say, it's just training them to respect you. And if you respect them, they respect you.
That's definitely a phrase people are going to take away from today. What about looking forward? We've got to start to wrap this up in some way. But in terms of the next few years, you've had a tough couple of years. But where would you like to be in a few years' time? Any sort of expansion, or more of the same, or new areas?
Yeah, so my whole plan of farming is to not focus just on livestock breeding and to just grow that way. It's also to diversify. So we talked about the cottage earlier. Again, bring a second revenue in from that. I want to work with the public. I used to sell meat boxes back on my old farm in Lancashire because I believe interaction and producing a good quality produce, selling it direct to the public is not only feeding the public, but it's also feeding me because your money return is far greater. I'd like to do talks, really talk to people, encourage people about how farming, you can start farming at a later age. There's opportunities there to look at and really engage with the public. And I'd like to open the farm up, have some open days, some education, a lot of different things that I've got written down in my little pads
Great.
and a lot of things that I've got to put into action. And this year is my year, hence why I'm doing the new website. We're doing stuff. So, really, the simplest thing is to engage with the public, get them a bigger understanding, get the public to come on farm, not big events, but some farm open days, and work with the land. I don't want to heavily farm it. I want to bring my goats back on, my pigs back on. We've got the highlands, we've got the sheep, and really just draw down the audience into specifics and really, which is what most farmers are having to do now, having to open their eyes, look at what we can achieve, how we can achieve it, because at the end of the day, no matter what happens, like you, we've all got to pay the bills.
We're going to start to wrap this up. There are so many, so many things I want to ask you, but time is against us. So I'm going to ask you the last two questions that I ask everyone who comes on the show. Damien, if you had a message for the public, first of all, what would your message be?
I think support your farmers. I know we talk about this all day long. If you can buy direct from your farmers, if you can buy local, go and visit your farmers, see what they do. If there's an open day or there's an opportunity to get involved and help, and do get involved and help. And I think it'll give the consumers and the public a better understanding of what we do as farmers and how hard we work.
And a message to farmers, especially in the context of everything that's happening at the moment.
Oh, good question. I think work together, communicate with your neighbours, talk if you're not feeling great, if you've got any issues that you want to talk about, open up. Don't be afraid of having that frank conversation. And from being a first generation farmer, I think, no way is the right way. If somebody has got a better way of looking at it or an opportunity to look at something, then be open minded. That's what I try and be because I haven't got the old school 2 generation farmers behind me who say we have to do it that way. I look at it and try and work smarter and wiser.
Well, on that note, I think we'll leave it there. But Damien, honestly, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think it's been it's really showcased your resilience. I'm going to use that word again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for telling us everything. And honestly, best of luck for
No,
the next
thanks,
few
Ben,
years.
for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And, I wish you success with your podcasts and that. And yeah, appreciate the time to be able to sort of talk briefly about what's been happening and bring it up to date.
Absolutely my pleasure. That's it for today. a big thank you to my guest, Damian Barson, for coming on the show. Thank you also for listening. Join us next time when we are heading to Ireland, and I'll be speaking to Sophie Bell. But for now, I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers, and thank you very much for listening.